World War E, briefly the most basic. The years of World War E 1939 to 1945, but in fact it began earlier, when the main instigators of the conflict, Germany, Italy and Japan, began to realize the imperial ambitions of their political top. It is in the aggressive actions of these countries lie the main causes of World War II. Because of what started World War EU predecessors of the largest military conflict was the robbery Versailles Peace Treaty, imposed after World War I by Britain and France to the losing side, Germany. Its terms, unrealizable economically and unjust legally, created international tension and a desire for revenge among the entire German people. On the wave of these sentiments, radicals, National Socialists led by Adolf Hitler, came to power in Germany. They ceased to fulfill the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, began to build up the industrial and military power of the country. Soon Germany had aggressive foreign policy plans. There was its rapprochement with Italy, where the fascists who came to power, led by Benito Mussolini, set the goal of expanding the country to the size of the ancient Roman Empire. The main warmongers in Asia were the Japanese, who in 1931 occupied Manchuria and northern China, and then launched an offensive on the rest of this country. In 1938 Britain, France, Germany and Italy entered into the Munich Pact, which authorized the German occupation of Czechoslovakia in exchange for peace. In 1939, the USSR offered Britain and France to enter into a trilateral alliance for mutual aid in the event of German aggression, but was refused. Then the Soviet Union went to a non-aggression agreement with Germany, to which was attached a secret protocol on the division of Poland. According to it, Hitler would take away a large, western part of this country, and Stalin would return to the USSR the Ukrainian and Belarusian lands annexed by Poland during the collapse of the Russian Empire. September 1939, when this protocol was implemented, is the beginning of World War E. When World War E began, the invasion of Poland by German troops is considered the beginning of World War II, because it caused the main geopolitical players, England, France, the USSR, to enter the conflict. Western countries, however, limited themselves to mere imitation of military action against Germany, called the Strange War. Hitler deployed against Britain large-scale submarine and air warfare, but by 1941 he came to the conclusion that to crush the British Navy and Air Force with the available technical means he will not be able to. In the winter of 1939–1940. In the winter of 1939–1940, the Soviet Union decided to move the border away from Leningrad, for which it offered Finland to exchange part of the Karelian Isthmus for twice as much territory in Karelia. Having received a refusal, the USSR attacked Finland and seized the lands of the Karelian Isthmus. Germany in 1940 continued its expansion in Europe, seizing Denmark, Norway, Belgium, Holland, and then France. Fascist Italy entered into a confrontation with the British in North Africa, seeking to seize the Suez Canal. In the spring of 1941, the Italians were joined by the Germans in the region. At the same time, Italian, German and allied Hungarian and Bulgarian forces captured Greece and Yugoslavia. After that, Hitler decided to proceed to the realization of his invasion plans in relation to the USSR. In parallel with these events, Japan's aggression in China and Indochina was expanding. World War E, years of decisive battles. With the German invasion of the USSR, in June 1941, counts the decisive phase of World War E. It began with the rapid offensive of German and Allied forces across the territory of the Soviet Union and heavy defeats of the Red Army. However, in December 1941, the Soviet troops seized the initiative and inflicted a crushing counterstroke on the aggressors near Moscow. The decisive victory of the Red Army in the Battle of Stalingrad in 1942–1943 was the Battle of Stalingrad. It became the largest military defeat of Germany, Hungary, Italy and Romania in their history. The troops of all these countries participated in the operation at Stalingrad. Victory in the Battle of Kursk, in the summer of 1943, finally secured the strategic initiative for the Red Army. In 1944, it liberated from the invaders all the occupied regions of the USSR and continued the offensive against Germany in Eastern Europe. In our country, all these military actions are called the Great Patriotic War of 1941–1945. In other countries of the world, the Eastern Front of World War E. When World War E ended, many people mistakenly believe that the day World War E ended is May 9, 1945. In fact, the date World War E ended is September 2, 1945, when Germany's last ally, militaristic Japan, surrendered. On August 6 and 9, 1945, the United States carried out a demonstrative atomic bombing of the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. In this inhumane way, the United States showed the world the power of nuclear weapons, which had not yet been possessed by any country. Results of World War II. The total number of victims of World War E is estimated at 55 to 70 million people. It caused colossal destruction, incalculable disasters of the population of many countries. The end of World War E was marked by a monstrous war crime of the United States, the use of nuclear weapons against the civilian population of Japan. In this regard, it should be noted that the Second World War ended under the sign of tremendous development of science and technology. Scientists of different countries, first of all, Germany, in search of new effective weapons and in order to improve military technology, made a number of important discoveries. The Second World War took place with an unprecedented level of motorization, regular introduction of new technical and combat means. The world community recognized fascist and Nazi ideologies as criminal and banned their propaganda. To prevent such destructive wars, the United Nations organization was founded. In many Western countries, communist parties began to play a prominent role in politics on the wave of the USSR's military successes. However, local political elites did their best to keep the communists out of power and gradually eroded their influence on the masses. Europe became divided into Western capitalist and Eastern socialist blocs, and relations between them deteriorated sharply. The USSR and the USA began to play a leading role in world politics. The bipolar international geopolitical system that existed under the conditions of the Cold War was formed. On December 5, the Red Army went on the offensive, rapidly liberating city after city in Moscow, Tula and partly Kalinin and Smolensk regions. The threat to the capital was eliminated. Although Army Group Center was not completely defeated, and the Wehrmacht managed to stop the advance of the Red Army, Germany suffered its first serious defeat since the beginning of World War E. Hitler's plan of lightning war failed. The enemy switched to a strategy of protracted warfare. The Führer organized a general's massacre of his generals and appointed himself commander-in-chief. He could not calm down that defeated by him in the summer of the Red Army as if reborn and turned to flight his lauded Wehrmacht. The victory at Moscow gave a powerful impetus to the liberation struggle in the occupied territory. Japan and Turkey refused to enter the war on the side of Germany. To this day, considering the events of this period, in liberal circles there is talk of some Stalinist reserves, Siberian divisions, foreign aid. Of course, there were reserves and divisions from the Far East were transferred, but we must also take into account the fact that they were not shelled and it was still necessary to improve their fighting qualities and equip them with everything necessary. As for foreign aid, it has already been mentioned above. The main supplies began only in 1942 after the victory near Moscow, and they were insignificant compared to the needs, about 4% of the required amount of equipment and weapons. The mainest aid was to Britain, not to the Soviet Union. The losses were enormous, but the Red Army survived and showed the world what it was worth.